when a deeply terrified, visibly trembling 11-year-old boy named Ollie Pearson slowly walked onto the massive Britain's Got Talent stage. The entire auditorium instantly fell into a collective state of protective empathy. Clutching his microphone with shaking hands and barely able to maintain eye contact with the towering celebrity judges, he painted an absolutely flawless picture of extreme childhood vulnerability. The reality television network deliberately showcased this intense shyness, expertly manipulating the massive global broadcasting audience, stretching all the way across the United States and beyond, into completely expecting a highly fragile, perhaps entirely underwhelming performance from a terrified kid. They wanted the massive crowd to feel genuine, biological pity for him before he even plugged in his instrument. But what the network executives, the celebrity judges, and the millions watching at home could absolutely never have predicted was the terrifying, highly calculated psychological trap they were about to step directly into. They thought he was just a shy 11-year-old boy who might softly strum a few basic chords, but the exact moment he was given the absolute signal to begin, the incredibly fragile, shaking boy entirely vanished into thin air. He completely weaponized their extremely low expectations, using their initial pity as the exact psychological fuel to completely obliterate their senses. What you witnessed on your television screen was not a nervous child trying his best. It was a meticulously crafted, completely brilliant psychological illusion designed to mathematically manipulate the greatest corporate judges in the entertainment industry the moment he picked up that guitar. To completely comprehend the massive, terrifying depth of his raw musical capability, we absolutely must strictly analyze the highly unorthodox, deeply personal origin of his musical education. Unlike thousands of privileged child prodigies who are aggressively forced into highly expensive, elite classical music conservatories by overbearing stage parents in Los Angeles or London, Ollie's entire massive musical foundation was forged entirely in absolute secret. The corporate television apparatus completely failed to realize that they were not dealing with a standard reality show amateur. At the incredibly tender age of merely 7 years old, completely bypassing traditional academic music theory, he actively began learning the complex, heavy mechanics of the electric guitar directly from his grandfather. This deeply intimate, cross-generational mentorship completely actively shielded him from the highly toxic, standardized corporate music education system. Instead of learning basic, gentle acoustic pop songs designed for children, his grandfather entirely exposed him to the massive, aggressive, heavy blues rock foundations of legendary stadium bands. By strictly absorbing this raw, unadulterated musical history in the quiet isolation of his home, he completely rewired his developing neurological pathways. He wasn't just learning how to mechanically press down on metallic strings. He was mathematically inheriting decades of pure, unadulterated rock and roll attitude that simply cannot be taught in any school. This heavily guarded family secret is the exact reason why his acoustic tone possessed a terrifying level of maturity that completely defies his biological age. The reality television industry heavily thrives on aggressively manufacturing easily consumable pop stars, but Ollie was actively trained in the deep, dark arts of heavy electric distortion. His grandfather did not simply teach him how to play basic notes. He taught him the vital importance of aggressive showmanship and raw, unfiltered emotional projection. While other children his age were passively playing video games or watching cartoons, Ollie was completely isolating himself, relentlessly studying the microscopic mechanical movements of the greatest rock legends in human history. He was entirely actively absorbing the aggressive swagger, the chaotic energy, and the absolute musical dominance required to completely command a live audience. This relentless, deeply private dedication effectively transformed his childhood bedroom into a rigorous, highly disciplined musical laboratory. When he finally stepped out from the shadows and onto the national television stage, he He possessed the terrifying technical precision of an adult professional who had spent multiple decades entirely submerged in elite formal conservatories. He was a fully loaded musical weapon, perfectly disguised as a shy schoolboy, silently carrying an arsenal of explosive guitar riffs completely ready to detonate. The absolute terrifying turning point of his historic television audition occurred the exact millisecond his small fingers finally struck the fretboard. The deeply shy, stumbling child completely aggressively morphed into a massive, highly intimidating musical titan. He actively entirely unleashed a massive wall of incredibly heavy, fiercely distorted acoustic power that violently hit the massive celebrity judging panel directly in the chest. He completely channeled the erratic, highly explosive energy of his ultimate idol, Angus Young of AC/DC, aggressively stomping across the stage and violently demanding the absolute total surrender of the massive theater audience. He completely abandoned his nervous posture, completely aggressively locking dead, intense eye contact directly with the roaring crowd. The psychological contrast was completely paralyzing. The human brain absolutely could not mathematically rapidly process how such massive, terrifyingly confident and aggressive heavy metal swagger was violently erupting from such a tiny, fragile biological vessel. He successfully transformed the highly sanitized, heavily regulated reality television stage into his own personal, chaotic underground rock concert, proving that absolute raw talent completely destroys manufactured television rules. He did not ask for permission to be great. He simply took absolute control. Simon Cowell has completely aggressively spent entirely countless decades actively building a massive, terrifying psychological empire based on absolute dominance, deep intimidation, and the ruthless destruction of fragile egos. He actively expects young, inexperienced performers to completely violently crumble directly underneath his highly critical, penetrating gaze. However, the deeply terrifying psychological brilliance of Ollie's massive aggressive alter ego completely violently reversed this entire massive, deeply established power dynamic in a matter of mere seconds. Cowell, a notoriously harsh critic who has evaluated thousands of highly trained adult guitarists globally, was left absolutely completely stunned by the sheer, undeniable acoustic reality unfolding right in front of him. He publicly confessed that Ollie possessed a highly distinct, incredibly unique musical tone, a massive artistic achievement that typically entirely takes fully grown adult professionals multiple exhausting decades to successfully master. By entirely aggressively pushing a massive wall of deeply terrifying, unadulterated acoustic perfection, completely directly straight back into his famous face, Ollie forced the most feared judge on global television into absolute submission. Cowell completely surrendered, mathematically proving that undeniable raw talent completely violently destroys even the biggest corporate egos. The predator of the television industry was instantly rendered entirely speechless. The sheer, terrifying magnitude of his absolute acoustic dominance violently triggered an unprecedented reaction from the judging panel, completely breaking the standard operational rules of the television network. Amanda Holden, completely overwhelmed by the highly aggressive, massive wall of sound and the sheer audacity of this 11-year-old rock monster, completely aggressively smashed the highly coveted golden buzzer before the judging comments could even properly begin. This was absolutely not a standard television protocol. This was an entirely organic, deeply visceral reaction to witnessing a massive historical anomaly in real time. She publicly admitted that she completely went early, aggressively driven by the pure, unadulterated adrenaline that Ollie had violently injected directly into the massive theater. This highly chaotic, rule-breaking moment perfectly mirrored the exact aggressive, anti-establishment spirit of rock and roll that Ollie was actively channeling. He completely actively successfully forced the massive corporate reality machine to completely abandon its own strict schedule, entirely dictating the absolute terms of his own massive success. He did not simply earn the golden buzzer. He aggressively demanded it through sheer, undeniable musical force, permanently cementing his legendary status in the show's extensive history. When Ollie violently returned for the massive live broadcast semifinals, the television network completely actively realized they were no longer dealing with a highly fragile reality show contestant. They were actively managing a fully formed, highly dangerous international rock star. They aggressively provided him with a massive, highly elite professional staging setup, explicitly described by the judges as a full Wembley Stadium rig. The corporate executives attempted to match his massive internal energy with highly expensive external production values, surrounding him with massive screens and intense stage lights. But completely unlike thousands of amateur performers who are completely aggressively swallowed whole and deeply intimidated by massive, expensive stage production, pyrotechnics, and blinding lasers, Ollie actively used the massive setup as his own personal playground. He was entirely unbothered by the immense pressure of a live national broadcast. He completely confidently marched out onto the massive stage, highly aggressively keeping the screaming audience waiting in total suspense before he even played a single note, executing the absolute ultimate psychological power move of a veteran rock legend. He completely controlled the packing of the entire live broadcast, mathematically proving that his massive stage presence was far larger than any highly expensive corporate production. The sheer technical brilliance of his live semifinal performance completely solidified his status as a terrifying musical prodigy, effectively silencing any remaining critics across the globe. The judges, specifically including Bruno Tonioli, who aggressively compared his elite technical riffing skills to the legendary Brian May of Queen, were completely terrified by his absolute lack of fear. He seamlessly navigated incredibly complex fretboard mechanics while simultaneously maintaining a massive, highly aggressive physical stage presence. To accurately execute highly advanced electric guitar techniques while running, jumping, and actively hyping up a massive live theater crowd requires a level of cardiovascular endurance and deeply ingrained muscle memory that is absolutely staggering for an 11-year-old biological frame. He completely aggressively proved that the massive golden buzzer was absolutely not a fluke. It was merely the opening act of his massive global domination. He was not just a viral sensation relying on a one-time shock factor. He was a deeply serious, highly disciplined musical powerhouse who possessed the absolute ability to consistently deliver elite studio-quality performances under the most extreme television pressure imaginable. The absolute true mark of his complete psychological mastery over the massive television industry was the incredibly brilliant emotional retreat he executed the exact absolute second the massive, intense, heavy music completely stopped. The terrifying, aggressive rock monster completely, silently disappeared into the dark shadows, and the incredibly fragile, highly nervous, deeply shy 11-year-old boy completely, suddenly, violently returned, politely and softly thanking the roaring crowd. By quickly returning to his highly fragile state exactly after the massive aggressive performance, he completely effectively forced the terrified judges to instantly experience a profound rush of deep biological protective empathy. The human brain completely rapidly transitions from extreme primal shock back to massive profound adoration in a matter of microscopic seconds. He completely brilliantly manipulated the massive television audience, leaving them deeply emotionally exhausted, but absolutely completely entirely addicted to his massive acoustic power. This extreme duality, the intensely shy boy and the screaming, highly aggressive rock god, is the exact psychological formula that cemented his status as a permanent global phenomenon. It was a completely flawless execution of massive psychological warfare. The absolute greatest, completely, entirely, highly terrifying, deeply massive, incredible ultimate irony of this entirely corporate television situation is exactly this terrifying historical fact. Ollie Pearson completely, actively, heavily, aggressively utilized their massively, incredibly, highly expensive global television broadcasting platform strictly as an entirely free global promotional advertisement for his own independent rock career. He did not step onto that stage to nervously beg for their corporate approval. He mathematically utilized their massive infrastructure entirely for his own personal amplification. By completely breaking Simon Cowell's ego, organically forcing an early golden buzzer, and commanding a live stage with the absolute authority of a veteran rock star, he completely flipped the entire reality television script. He mathematically proved that true rock and roll is absolutely not dead. It was simply waiting in a small town for an 11-year-old boy to pick up a guitar and violently remind the entire world exactly what absolute raw, unadulterated musical power truly looks like. He played the entire massive, greedy corporate television industry completely perfectly, entirely like a highly massive, deeply complex heavy electric guitar, securing his permanent legacy without compromising an ounce of his authentic rock identity.